article, yes. Everybody needs a pen or a pencil or a highlighter, because what you're going to be doing while I read this to you is you're going to be following along. And if there are any words that you are unfamiliar to you, I want you to underline them or highlight them as we go, and then that'll be part of your group work or homework for later to get those defined. All right? Sound good? We can all do that? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Also, as you read, I want you to think about what can we infer about why the Titanic sank by reading this article. So just a refresher, we talked about this a couple days ago. What's inferencing? What does that mean to infer? Any ideas?
To read between the lines.
Read between the lines. Okay, what does that mean? Can somebody unpack that a little bit more for me?
Sure. To figure out what the author is trying to say, but he's not saying it, so we're trying to figure out what else he means.
Okay, so we're looking for a hidden meaning in these particular paragraphs that maybe the author's trying to tell us something without actually saying it. Okay? We're good? Good. Fabulous. Actually, I need somebody else to come help me too. I need another volunteer. I need another person. No volunteers? I'll pick somebody. Nobody? Nobody? Tina, come. I want you to sit just like you did last week. And I want you to touch the arrow when I let you know.
Oh, yay.
Like, where's your article?
Oh, sorry.
You left it. Here. Okay. When I tell you to hit next slide, then you touch that little arrow.
The one that goes up.
Okay. So these are actually pictures of the iceberg that the Titanic hit, which I thought was interesting. These are the only pictures that anyone took at all, ever, back in 1912. All right, now everyone's on their article. I'm going to read to you. Everyone's listening. Everyone's following along. Exactly 100 years ago Sunday, an ocean liner struck a block of ice and sank in the North Atlantic. The story of the ocean liner has been told hundreds of times. This story is about the block of ice. The photos you see up are quite possibly the only known photographic evidence of the actual iceberg that struck the Titanic. Understandably, nobody had bothered to snap any photographs while the ship was actually sinking, so it's impossible to make an absolutely confirmed positive identification. But both photographs feature the telltale sign of a collision with the ship, and likely a recent one of that, a streak of red paint. The first photo, this one, was taken by the chief steward of the German ocean liner SS Prince Adalbert, which on April 15th was sailing through the North Atlantic mere miles away from where the Titanic had sunk the night before. At the time, the chief steward hadn't yet learned of the Titanic's fate, so he wasn't even on the lookout for icebergs. He simply spotted a streak of red paint along the iceberg's base, which most likely meant a ship had collided with it in the last 12 hours. This next photo was taken by a Captain de Carteret of the Minia, one of a few cable ships, vessels ordinarily used to lay deep cables, such as those for telecommunications, sent to the site of the shipwreck to recover corpses and debris. The captain claimed this was the only iceberg in the area, and the red paint was again a clear sign that a ship had recently struck it. There's some disagreement over whether this was the only iceberg in the area, but it certainly seems likely that something had hit it, and the odds are good that that something was the Titanic. The iceberg began its slow journey into the North Atlantic over 3,000 years ago. Again, we can only guess at the exact details, but the story likely began with snowfall on the western coast of Greenland somewhere around 1000 BC. Really put the phone away, it becomes mine. Somewhere around 1000 BCE. After a few months, this snow has been turned into a more compacted form called firn, which then, over subsequent decades, is compressed into dense ice by the weight of newer snow on top of it. Okay, we're gonna stop there for a second. And what I need is for you guys to get into 3 groups. So we have a fewer people today than we're used to. So what I think we're gonna do is you 3 are gonna be a group, because you or as a locale. You 4, Lily, can you join this group over here? And then 1, Tina, you can get back over here. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Okay, you're gonna actually have to do it. Okay. There we go.
We didn't get our assignment.
It's okay.
It's Monday. Monday would be the same way if I had it out anyway.
All right, so in your groups, like I said, we're going to be practicing close reading, which means we're going to be looking at these paragraphs for some information that maybe is a little bit difficult to come across if you're just reading it straight through. So with this paragraph, paragraph 4, the one that I just read to you, I want you in your groups to reread the paragraph. You're going to, if you want, you can read it out loud. You can choose one person from each group to read it out loud to your group. Or if you choose, you can read it independently and then discuss with your group. It's up to you. But if you're going to fight over who's reading out loud, I'm going to choose for you. Okay, so when you're looking at this paragraph, what I want you to think about is, what is the central idea? What is the central idea of this paragraph? What does it mean, the central idea? We've been talking about this all year, and it's totally going to be on your test. What is the central idea? Come on, guys, I know it's Monday. Anyone? Anyone? What does it mean? Bueller? What does it mean to be central?
Oh, what is this?
Yeah, what's central idea? Just remind me, what's the central idea?
The main idea of the paragraph.
The main idea of the paragraph, okay. So when we look at this paragraph, I want you to think about what's the main idea. What are they trying to tell you in that paragraph? I'll give you 2 minutes. Ready, set, go. Make sure that everybody in the group has the same information.
I think we all
Came up with the same idea? What'd you come up with?
I said it took a long time.
Maybe we combine those 2 into a complete sentence?
1000 BCE is
It's a
raised.
long time for an iceberg to develop.
And how does it develop? What steps have to happen?
The snow somewhere and then compact somewhere else.
Somewhere else?
Where the E come from.
Snow gets
We thought this was right in the middle.
into a
Okay.
and then.
So what about that? What about that being right in the middle?
Tree.
The idea of the formation.
Okay.
Firm with an
Firm.
I.
But what is the E in
Red,
BCE?
red fern.
Era. They gotta just get rid of that E.
No, we changed it.
We're getting rid
No,
of
we
that
changed
E.
it. Fine.
Yeah, that's just, it's actually just.
Yeah.
we get like one, so it's like a.
Piece
No,
E.
it really is not a character.
So what is this remind me? Central idea of the paragraph.
Show me all jokes.
Have you turned it into
Google images.
Yeah, so this, text is actually.
Where? There you go. What do you guys think?
And they're at least on the. Yeah, they're basically this.
Yeah, the majority of my 11th grade stuff.
And how it was kind of a nice.
All right, I want you back with me on 3, 2, 1. All right, John, what's the central idea of paragraph 4?
it takes a long time for an iceberg to develop.
Okay. And what's so special about this iceberg in particular?
Sank the Titanic
Where?
in North Atlantic.
Ah, very good. What's so special about the North Atlantic? Prior knowledge. Do you know anything about the North Atlantic?
It's cold.
Ah, it's very, very cold. That's what we're looking for. It's very, very cold. And this group, what did you guys come up with? How is an iceberg formed? It's in there. You just told me. Somebody help them out. How's an iceberg formed? Right in the
Snow,
paragraph.
snow gets compressed
Ah, there it is.
over decades.
Decades?
Yes.
Is that what it says?
Centuries. Millennia.
Millennia. Millennia's a long time, guys. That's more than decades. Don't you think?
Well, paragraph 4 is only talking about decades.
It took subsequent decades to compress,
Right.
but we're looking at the whole time period. So how long did it take for this iceberg to form, to get this big?
Before Jesus.
Yes, that's true. How did you know before Jesus?
Oh, I just did my math.
From where? Where do you see numbers?
3,000 years ago.
3,000?
In the first line.
You see, oh, okay. Very good. Very good. All right, so let's look at paragraph 5. We're gonna do the same idea, okay? And I have paragraph 5 up on our board. I'm gonna read it to you, and you're gonna follow along while I read it to you. The frozen water in these glaciers is slowly forced further westward toward the sea. When they finally reach the coast of the Arctic Ocean, the lapping tides break off chunks of the ice and icebergs are calved from the glacier, some 30 centuries after their source water was first deposited. The iceberg that sank the Titanic began its journey as a rough contemporary of King Tutankhamun, entire civilizations rising and falling, while it made its slow march to infamy. All right, so
That's dramatic.
yeah, isn't it? I thought it was dramatic too. Especially the comparison with Tutankhamun. So your job this time in your groups is to use your context clues and figure out what the word calved means. Ready, set, go. Think, pair, share. Talk in your groups.
The baby cow jumped off the iceberg. Did not.
This group needs to talk a little bit more.
Kings had to have a baby.
And then it formed a glacier.
Huh?
Form a glacier.
Yep. That's what I got.
Calving is off the iceberg part.
Okay, so form a glacier.
So I thought a cat was a baby cat.
You know, I thought that too. I'm glad you're driving. Like a cat.
Like the iceberg had a baby.
Possible.
Oh wait, the glacier had a baby and the baby was an iceberg. I have it.
Well, mine was,
She is, you know, even though she has, you know, her eye, she has her behavior problems. That's a typical violation
Whoa.
love you even though you have nine.
Thank you.
You still think you're
It was
Mine is for
we came up with, it's a mass wasting
wage
event.
high.
and you should know.
mass
there.
wasting. It's a mass wasting.
It fell off of the other part due to gravity.
But it's seriously a really hard concept for the kids to come up with when they're just trying to
Mm.
all the words and remember.
We got confused by E.
It's
and
like
DC.
math. They don't get math. They don't think of
Perfect.
even what is the possibility that they know that they have.
And you're coming back to me in 3, 2, I heard lots of really good things when I came around to the groups. Not everybody can give me answers like Tina all the time. Tina, help me out here, please.
So, our group thinks that maybe the glacier, they're using figurative language, maybe.
Oh,
The
maybe.
glacier, the iceberg came from the glacier, so saying that the iceberg was calved, like it was like the offspring, birth, the glacier gave birth to an iceberg calf.
All right, I like it. The glacier gave birth to an iceberg baby.
Yep. That was cute.
I like it. I'm gonna go with it, which is basically what happened, right? So how did that happen though? How did, Willie, how did the iceberg fall off the glacier? What happened there? It tells you in the text.
Hold on. How did it fall off?
The ties broke off, chunks of ice.
Deborah, help him out a little bit, please.
He was a science teacher.
Tides,
I was just looking.
you know, from beating against the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. The more the tides are lapping against the ice, it's gonna break off. Beautiful. Love it. Great. Next paragraph. So, these last three, you're going to do in your groups all on your own, and I am not going to read them to you. You're gonna have to read them on your own, and each group is going to have a different question. So you're gonna have one reading comprehension question, and you're going to have one inferencing question. Who wants to help me pass these out? Anyone? Anyone? Tina, thank you. Okay, so I would like for this group here, you're going to read paragraph 6, which is the top paragraph on your second page. This group here, you are going to read paragraph 7, fairly short, you want to know that letter.
Yay.
And you guys are going to get the last paragraph, paragraph 8.
The longest one.
Yes, I know, but I started over there. I'll start over here tomorrow, and you can get a short one. Okay?
Paragraph 7.
All right, so let's look at your worksheet for just real quick so we can go over the directions. You will read each paragraph assigned to your group and answer the questions related to that paragraph in complete sentences. Instructions for reading. Like I said before, you will choose one person in your group to read the paragraph aloud. If you're unable to choose, I will choose for you, okay? So I'm giving you that option, all right? So, for group 6, the question you're going to answer is what caused the iceberg to be in the North Atlantic instead of the Arctic? And what can you infer about the sinking of Titanic from that paragraph? That's it. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing for that one. Paragraph 7, people. Why was the Titanic iceberg, quote, one of the lucky ones? And give an example from the text. And then secondly, what can you infer about the sinking of Titanic from that paragraph? And then paragraph 8, people, what is the life expectancy of an iceberg in 28-degree Fahrenheit water temperatures? And then what can you infer about the sinking of Titanic from that paragraph? Okay? It's a long paragraph, but the answer is pretty short. The question. Okay? All right, so we'll give you, what, 3-5 minutes? Okay. Ready, set, go. Go, go, go.
It was lucky because it became famous, unlike one of the other 15 to 30,000.
Fair, just for the reason. Such a temperature, but of course, keep it cold all the time.
Not everybody can become famous. We're still talking about this one
Far too warm.
50 years later.
The average life expectancy of an iceberg in the North Atlantic.
The text is strictly based on
Actually, 30 seconds, but
That
cool.
means it has to go up between 1910 and 1912. Or sometime in 1913. All likelihood the iceberg that sank the Titanic and even before it was splash of fresh water mixed in imperceptibly.
Wait.
The rest of the
did reach
3
the
years when
limit.
Kevin melted.
That middle-aged iceberg. I just had it.
So lucky if it got to reach, it got to melt. I think it's much luckier if it got famous. Well, we're still talking about it, everybody knows it's a Titanic iceberg.
But they said in 1912, it hit in the.
And there's 15 to 30,000 other icebergs each year, and nobody's ever talking about those ones.
So it was gone forever by the end of, no, it was almost, it was elderly, it was elderly. Sometime in the, right, probably the early 13th, right?
1% of the, so of 30,000, right, what is that, 300?
It's middle-aged, too elderly.
Mhm.
So taking it where?
So 150 to 300.
She wrote the rest.
Status.
Okay, you're doing one per group. Alright. That's Titanic.
It was part of the 1%. And we all know, they've been talking about that on the news lately, if they're lucky.
Yeah, participated.
Did you read it, Deborah?
Because it actually made it to that mandate.
And I was thinking about the song from Frozen. They wanted to build a snowman.
I don't know what's happening. Okay, don't forget your second question.
How
How
could
did
you not have
Bushman
thought about
insured?
it with the iceberg?
Don't forget your second question.
That sinking the Titanic was lucky? Because if the melting of the iceberg is lucky, then I guess the sinking of the Titanic was lucky.
Okay, so then what does that tell you? What does that tell you about why the Titanic hit it? Or what the chances of Titanic hitting it were? From the text? All right, everyone has their inferencing question?
The Titanic was lucky, just like the dead iceberg.
They never catched it, they never really catched the glacier.
What did you do?
The glacier melted off the horizon, never to be
All right, 3, 2,
faced by its.
1. All right. Paragraph 6, we're going to go in order, okay? So, my paragraph 6 people. Somebody read this paragraph to me, to the class. Yeah. Somebody read the paragraph to me. She wrote the answer.
I wrote it after the answer.
You did. Come on, read the paragraph to me.
But once upon a stone, the iceberg line was a short one. We know that because the Titanic sank in the North Atlantic rather than the Antarctic, which means the conqueror must have taken it far south of where it was covered. Starting on the Greenland coast, it would have moved from Baffin Bay to the Davis Strait, and then onto the Labor Seas and at last the Atlantic.
All right, so your question was, what caused the iceberg to be in the North Atlantic instead of the Arctic? Go for it.
The currents must have taken it far south of where it was covered.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It means that starting in the Greenland coast, it would have moved from the bay to the Davis.
Okay, so what does that tell you? What is the paragraph telling you about the distance from Greenland to where it ended up?
It's going from north.
It's going from north to south, right?
Yes.
So is it close or is it far from where it began?
Far.
It's really, really, really far from where it started, right? Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. It's really, really far from where it started. So what does that distance from where it started tell your group about why the Titanic hit it? What do you think? What do you
What is
think?
the question again?
So, since that iceberg was so far away from where it started, from where it was capped, and it was like broken off the glacier, does that tell you anything about why Titanic might have hit it?
Probably because the Titanic is going towards that direction.
Mm-hmm. And what about the position of the iceberg? Willie, you had your hand up.
That the crew didn't expect to hit an iceberg where they hit it,
Why weren't they expecting to hit an iceberg right where they were?
because it was so far away from the ice.
Yeah, it wasn't where it was supposed to be at all. It was a lot further away from where they would have expected to be, right? So they weren't looking for it, right? Okay. Group 7, who's going to read the paragraph for me? Thank you.
The Titanic iceberg was one of the lucky ones, so to speak, as the vast majority of icebergs melt long before they reach that far south. Of the 15,000 to 30,000 icebergs calved each year by the Greenland glaciers, probably only about 1% of them ever make it all the way to the Atlantic. On April 15, 1912, the iceberg was some 5,000 miles south of the Arctic Circle.
Beautiful. So your question was, why was the Titanic iceberg one of the lucky ones? So why do you think, I heard you guys debating this a lot, so I'm curious to see what you came up with. So why was it one of the lucky ones? Why would you talk about an iceberg being a lucky one when they're sinking a boat with thousands of people dying?
Because with the percentage, they said it is one of the lucky ones that made it
Okay.
so far to the Atlantic and made it to the Atlantic. Okay, because out of 1,500, 15,000 to 30,000, it's only about 150 to 300 that makes it. And the iceberg that the Titanic hit
Was one
happens
of
to be
them.
one of them.
Perfect. That is an absolutely perfect answer. I love it. Okay. So it was they don't usually make it that far south. And my last group, why don't they normally make it that far south? Somebody read me the paragraph. John,
Okay.
thank you.
The water temperature on the night of the Titanic sinking was thought to be about 28 degrees Fahrenheit, just below freezing. Such a temperature was of course lethally cold for all those passengers who had been forced to take to the open water to escape the sinking ship. But such temperatures are far too warm to sustain icebergs for very long. The average life expectancy of an iceberg in the North Atlantic is only about 2 to 3 years from calving to melting. That means it likely broke off from Greenland in 1910 or 1911 and was gone forever by the end of 1912 or sometime in 1913. In all likelihood, the iceberg that sank the Titanic didn't even endure the outbreak of World War I, a low splash of fresh water mixed in imperceptibly with the rest of the North Atlantic.
Beautiful. So your question was, what is the life expectancy of an iceberg in 28 degree Fahrenheit water temperatures?
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years. Where did you find that? Somewhere in the middle, right?
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in the middle. Good. Yeah, it's only 2 to 3 years. So let's think about this. So if we have a glacier, and we have the seawater lapping on the sides, and it cuts off a piece of ice, yeah? And we have really strong currents that are taking it far away from where it's supposed to be. And not many of the icebergs that come off of Greenland actually make it to where it ended up sinking the Titanic. And how long was it gonna last in those waters? At a 28-degree temperature?
It was too warm to last it, for it to last very long.
So, would that iceberg be sitting in that spot where the Titanic hit it? Would it be sitting there for a really, really long time, where you could like maybe map it and say, oh, hey, that iceberg's there. You should probably miss it. No. So what kind of a conclusion can we draw from these 3 points? What do you think? Can we answer our aim? Was the Titanic sinking avoidable? What do you think? No? You don't think so? Anybody agree or disagree? Who agrees? Put your hand up. It was unavoidable. They could not avoid it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Everyone else thinks it was avoidable? This is going to be a very, very interesting rest of our unit. And we're going to find out continuously throughout the whole thing whether or not it was avoidable, which I'm going to go with you on this one, or if it was unavoidable or avoidable. Yeah?